Sitting at my mahogany desk, the late afternoon sun casting long golden shadows across the office, I found myself drifting. For the first time in years, the relentless grind of the corporate world felt distant, replaced by a profound, quiet reflection on the 30 years that had passed since Maya and I said, "I do." It was a milestone that felt both impossible and inevitable. My mind kept rewinding like an old film reel, back to our honeymoon in Hawaii. Those memories weren't just snapshots. They were vibrant, living moments of a time when the world felt limitless and our love was the only compass we needed. That time in Maui fills me with a thick, heavy nostalgia. It was truly a captivating chapter, a period of peace that is increasingly hard to describe in today's chaotic world. Right from the beginning, it felt as though we had stepped through a portal into a magical realm, leaving behind the noise of the city and finding a tranquility that reached deep into my soul. I can still feel the sensation of walking along Kaanapali Beach, the incredibly fine white sand shifting between our toes, while the rhythmic sound of the waves seemed to whisper ancient secrets meant only for us. We were surrounded by raw, unfiltered beauty. The air itself was different there, heavy and sweet with the intoxicating scent of plumeria, a constant, floral reminder of the love and absolute peace that enveloped us during those first weeks of marriage. But it wasn't just the postcard views that made it unforgettable. It was the shared exploration. We ventured into lush, emerald jungles, discovering hidden waterfalls that felt like private treasures of Mother Nature. Standing there, mist on our faces, we were in constant awe of the power and grace surrounding us. Our retreat on the cliffs of Maui was breathtaking. The balcony offered views that seemed to stretch into eternity. Every single sunset was a masterpiece, painting the sky in shades of violet, orange, and deep crimson. Holding Maya close in those moments, I felt a surge of devotion so strong it was almost overwhelming. Evenings were a slow, romantic melody, candlelit dinners directly on the sand under a vast, unpolluted canopy of stars. We savored fresh seafood and local delicacies, but the real magic wasn't the food or the setting. It was the way the light caught the love in Maya's eyes. Hawaii became the heartbeat of our story, the foundation upon which every dream we shared was built. Looking back, that honeymoon reminds me of the sheer depth of our bond, giving me a sense of gratitude that I hold in my heart 30 years later. Suddenly, the click of the door brought me back to the present. My executive assistant, Sarah, walked in, stopping short when she saw the expression on my face. "Mr. Vance, what is making you so happy lately? Did you finally win the lottery?" she joked, a playful smirk on her face. It hit me then, I had been smiling, truly smiling for nearly 2 weeks straight. I told her simply that my wife had been especially loving and attentive lately. It felt like Maya was making a conscious effort to make me feel valued, loved, and desired again after the long, predictable years of midlife. It felt like a second honeymoon was unfolding in our own home, and I found myself counting the minutes until I could leave the office to be with her. I was acting like a smitten teenager and I didn't want the feeling to ever end. Maya and I have always had what I considered a rock-solid marriage. But 30 years is a long time. Excitement often fades into the gray fog of routine, and you stop seeing each other through the lens of passion. Yet, for the last fortnight, Maya had been unusually affectionate. She sought out intimacy almost every night, reintroducing sparks and aspects of our relationship that we hadn't explored in a decade. I never once suspected that this sudden surge of affection was anything other than a genuine rekindling of our vows. I was blinded by my own happiness. To celebrate this new chapter, I decided to plan a surprise. I left the office 2 hours early, a broad grin on my face that felt permanent. I stopped at the florist and bought 24 of the deepest red roses I could find. Then I picked up a bottle of her favorite vintage wine and a box of high-end chocolate-covered cherries. Tonight was going to be the pinnacle. I had already booked a 7-night luxury cruise on the new yacht, Eternity, a surprise that I knew would leave her breathless. I wanted to show her that my love for her hadn't aged a day. I entered the house through the garage, my heart thumping with anticipation. I climbed the kitchen steps, expecting to see Maya preparing dinner or perhaps relaxing with a book. Instead, I found our 29-year-old daughter, Chloe, sitting at the kitchen island. She looked tense, her hands gripped tightly around a mug of coffee. I forced a smile, kissed her forehead, and set the roses down. "Hey baby, where's your mom? I've got a massive surprise for her." I didn't know then that the ground was already shifting beneath my feet. 2 weeks earlier, a conversation had taken place in this very kitchen that would dismantle my entire existence. "Mom, I'm really not sure about this," Chloe had whispered to her mother, her eyes darting toward the door as if expecting me to appear. "I love Dad so much and I am terrified that if you actually go through with this, it's going to break him. It's too much. Maya had looked at her daughter, her expression unreadable but firm. Chloe, your father loves you and in the end he will understand. You were the one who told me I needed something more, something to make me feel alive again. Your father isn't getting any younger and things have become static. I know he will understand my needs and allow me this one-time pleasure. It's just an experience, honey. Mom, there is no way I can look him in the eye and tell him you're going on a date with another man. I just can't do it. It feels like a betrayal. Then let me handle the logistics, Maya had insisted. Julian will be waiting for you at the restaurant at 7 p.m. You'll be ready to leave by 6 o'clock. When your father gets home tonight, I will have already left, and I've asked you to be here to explain the situation to him. He will listen to you. You'll get the experience you've been craving, and he'll see that our marriage can handle a little outside curiosity. Mom? I agreed to help, but I have such deep doubts. This feels wrong on every level. How can I look him in the face for 2 weeks, knowing I'm helping you plan a date with another man? I suggest you don't say a word until the night of, Maya replied, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Instead, use these 2 weeks to show him how much you love him. Let him feel so secure and loved that he has nothing to worry about. If you rock his world for 14 days, he'll be in such a good mood that when I explain everything, he'll understand it isn't about replacing him. It's just new friendship, a bit of fun. He's always given you everything you wanted to show his love. He'll do this for me too. Maybe you're right, Chloe had sighed, leaning into the manipulation. It's just one date. It doesn't mean you're leaving him. I'll show Dad how wonderful he is every night until the date, and when you get back, we'll make him the happiest man alive. It's for the best, right? Exactly. Just make him feel desired. He's a great guy and he'll grant me this one-of-a-kind experience. Now go home and cook for Mark. And when are you going to give us those grandkids? Soon, Mom. We're planning to start trying in a few months, Chloe had said, finally finding a reason to smile before leaving. Left alone in the house, Maya had retreated to the art studio I had built for her, a beautiful light-filled space behind the house where she spent her days. She stood before a fresh canvas, the weight of the upcoming date pressing on her. Initially, she struggled with the creative spark, her mind clouded by the ethics of what she was about to do. But as she recalled Chloe's words of permission, a sudden, frantic energy took over. Her brushes began to fly, splashing vibrant, emotive colors across the fabric. She convinced herself she was doing this for her own growth, for the sake of the marriage itself. She felt a wash of peace replace her guilt. Jason might be upset at first, she thought, but I can make him see. I adore him. He's an exceptional father and husband. I will just be the best wife ever to prove it to him. That evening the plan began. After her shower, Maya put on my favorite black silk nightgown, the one I'd bought her years ago that she rarely wore anymore. She did her hair and makeup with meticulous care. When I walked through the door, she greeted me with a heat I hadn't felt in years. She guided me to the bedroom, her heels clicking on the hardwood, and undressed me with a slow, deliberate enthusiasm that left me breathless. She pleased me in ways we hadn't prioritized in a long time. Seeing the pure happiness on my face filled her with a strange, twisted satisfaction. Maya, that was incredible, I told her, holding her tightly. What's the occasion? I feel like the luckiest man alive. I just wanted to show you how special you are. Did you enjoy it? I did. I forgot how much I missed this side of us. For a moment as we lay there, Maya actually considered canceling Julian. The intimacy was fulfilling, deeper than it had been in years. But over the next 2 weeks, as our passion reached a fever pitch, she found herself even more curious about what else was out there. She was happier than she had been in decades, and she mistakenly attributed that happiness to the thrill of the upcoming date rather than the renewed connection with me. She even called Chloe to talk about the changes. Mom, this is fantastic, but don't cancel Julian yet, Chloe had advised. Let's see how the full 2 weeks go. Just enjoy Dad and see where it goes. You can always cancel last minute, but Julian is a unique opportunity. He's a good man. You're right. Tell me about him again. I know he's Sarah's dad, but what's his story? Julian is special. When his wife, Sarah, was diagnosed with that tumor, he dropped everything. He stayed by her side for years until the very end. He was the ultimate husband. After she died, he was just a shell. He didn't know how to talk to women anymore. When I suggested he start dating, he told me he was lost. I realized then that you two could help each other. He admires you from afar, Mom. He thinks you're stunning. He just needs a friend, someone to show him the world is still beautiful. The next day Julian had called Maya. The conversation was easy, elegant, and filled with a sophisticated flirting that made Maya feel like a young girl again. When he suggested they spend the night together at a hotel after dinner, the butterflies in her stomach turned into a roar. She agreed, insisting on meeting him at the restaurant to keep some semblance of control. They texted constantly, a digital trail of infidelity that would have shattered any man. Maya felt a surge of uncontrollable desire, a new level of excitement that she funneled back into our bedroom every night, leaving me with a permanent, foolish grin on my face. And now here I was, standing in the kitchen with my flowers and my cruise tickets, looking at my crying daughter. "Sweetheart, what are you doing here? And where's your mom?" I asked again, the silence stretching too long. I pulled the tickets out of my pocket. "I'm whisking her away on a 7-day cruise. I can't wait to see her face." Chloe's breath hitched. Tears were streaming down her face now. "Dad, we need to talk. Please just sit down." "What's wrong? Is Maya okay? Did something happen?" "No, Mom is fine. Just, listen to me." She took a deep breath, her voice trembling. "Dad, you know how much Mom loves you. She told me how amazing these last 2 weeks have been. She's so happy." "I know she is. I'm too. That's why I'm doing this." "I'm so sorry, Daddy, but Mom went on a date tonight." The world didn't stop. Shattered. I sat there in a silence so heavy it felt like it was crushing my lungs. My brain tried to process the words, but they didn't fit into the reality I had built. "Brandy? Chloe? What are you talking about? A date? With who? Where is she?" "Mom loves you, Dad. Please don't take this the wrong way. She just went on a date with another man. She won't be back until tomorrow. She couldn't tell you herself, so I said I'd stay here to break it to you. She didn't want you to be alone when you found out. It's just one night. She'll be home in the morning." "Is this a joke?" My voice was a low growl now, the anger starting to seep through the shock. "Your mother would never do this. We were closer than ever. These last 2 weeks, they were real. This can't be real." "It is real, Dad. She loves you, she just needed something more. Just once. After 30 years, she felt she deserved to feel that newness again. Nothing is changing between you. She'll love you even more now that she's had this chance." I stared at my daughter, the girl I had raised and protected. "Why are you involved in this? Why are you in my kitchen telling me my wife is in a hotel with another man? How did you let her drag you into this?" "We've always been close, Dad. She told me she didn't feel desired anymore. My friend's dad, Julian, he lost his wife. He needed someone. I introduced them. I thought it would help them both." I stood up so fast my chair flipped over, crashing against the floor. "You set your mother up? You, my own daughter, handed my wife to another man? Are you insane?" Chloe recoiled, her face pale. She stayed silent as I began to pace the kitchen, my blood boiling, the betrayal from both of them hitting me like a physical blow. "Answer me. Did you set this up? Is my wife out with your friend's father because of you?" "I'm sorry. It sounds bad when you say it like that, but I did it out of love. I wanted her to be happy." "Love? What about love for me? Am I just a paycheck to you both? Someone to keep the lights on while you play matchmaker with my wife? Where is she? Which restaurant?" "I don't know, Dad. They went to dinner and then they're spending the night at a hotel. Just this once. She'll be back tomorrow. She loves only you. She spent 2 weeks showing you that." "So it was all a lie," I whispered, the venom dripping from every word. "The affection, the intimacy, it was just guilt. She was preparing me for her betrayal." "Well, this isn't going to end the way you think it is. Daddy, please. Can't you just give her this one night? She can't imagine life without you. She wants to grow old with you, she wants our kids to have their grandfather." "That's ironic," I spat. "That ship sailed the moment she took off her rings." "Who is he? Give me a name." "It's Julian. Sarah's dad. He's a nice man, Dad. You'd actually like him." "I'd like him? I'd like the man who is sleeping with my wife right now? Maybe we can be best friends. Maybe I can lend her to him on weekends? Is that the plan, Chloe?" My daughter slumped into the chair, finally seeing the wreckage she had helped create. My anger was a physical force in the room. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw a stranger. "Listen to me carefully," I said, my voice cold and hard as granite. "Leave. No. I need to be alone before I say something even worse. I don't want to see you. I don't want to call. I don't want to text. Your betrayal is worse than hers. You are dead to me. You are no longer my daughter. Get out of my house. Dad, please. I'm staying here tonight, Mom and I planned it. Get out." I roared. "I worked 30 years to give you everything. I was a meal ticket for a daughter who has no respect for me. You are your mother's daughter. Go be with her. You're finished here. Chloe fled, sobbing, the front door slamming behind her. I was alone in a house that suddenly felt like a tomb. I reached for the phone and dialed Maya. Voicemail. I left a message. Then another. Then I started texting. Come home. No. Don't do this. No response. By 2 a.m. the silence told me everything I needed to know. She wasn't coming back. She had chosen him over 30 years of us. I sat there, staring at the roses on the counter, the cruise tickets, and then my eyes drifted to the window toward the art studio. That sanctuary I had built for her with my own hands. The anger shifted then, transforming from a raw heat into a cold, calculated fire. I knew exactly what I had to do. While I was pacing the wreckage of my kitchen, drowning in a mixture of expensive Cabernet and pure, unadulterated vitriol, Maya was stepping out of an Uber in front of one of the city's most exclusive restaurants. She looked radiant, though I wouldn't know that until much later. She had chosen a form-fitting black dress that I had always loved, but tonight she wasn't wearing it for me. She was determined to unleash an inner confidence she claimed had been suppressed for years. Julian was waiting by the entrance, and the moment their eyes met, she felt a jolt of electricity that made her stomach flip in a way I hadn't been able to trigger in a long time. They started at the bar, ordered 2 glasses of a vintage red, and Maya made a point of reaching into her clutch and switching off her phone. She didn't want the weight of our life together to interrupt the flow of this new connection. After the second glass, the hostess informed them their table was ready. The dinner was a blur of high-end cuisine and even higher-end flirting. Julian was charming, attentive, and most importantly he was new. Maya found herself relishing every second of the attention. When the check was paid and they stood to leave, the tension was thick enough to cut. He turned to her in the cool night air and asked if she still wanted to spend the night with him. Maya didn't hesitate. In a move she would later describe as teasingly provocative, she removed one of her heels and placed her bare foot between his legs while they waited for the valet. Julian's smile widened as he noticed her deep red toenails peeking through the sheer nylon of her stockings. He leaned in, whispered something in her ear that made her flush, and they headed to the hotel room he had pre-booked at the Grand Hotel. As the elevator doors slid open on the 14th floor, reality finally tried to claw its way back into Maya's mind. For a fleeting second, my face appeared in her thoughts. She felt a wave of hesitation, a sudden awareness of the 30 years she was about to throw into the fire. Sensing her withdrawal, Julian didn't push. He simply pulled her close to his sturdy frame and met her gaze. He bestowed upon her a romantic kiss that she later told Chloe was unlike anything she had experienced. In that moment, the firewall of her conscience collapsed. All thoughts of me, our home, and our marriage faded into the background. Tonight, she didn't belong to the Vance household, she belonged to him. Inside the room, Julian wasted no time. He unzipped the black dress, letting it pool on the floor, and Maya stood before him, feeling more seen than she had in decades. The experience that followed was, in her words, the pinnacle of her sensual life. She was eager, active, and completely present in a way she hadn't been with me for years. At one point, as she admired his physique, she had the fleeting, treacherous thought, I should get Jason to do this, it's so enticing. But she quickly shut it down, refusing to let the ghost of her marriage haunt her night of pleasure. Then came the words that changed the weight of the evening. Locking eyes with her in the heat of the moment, Julian uttered, I love you, Maya. It was an unexpected declaration, one that moved her to tears of joy. She felt a profound, almost religious connection to this stranger, a feeling she interpreted as a sign that she was doing exactly what she was meant to do. They made love several times that night and once more in the morning, bathed in the early sunlight filtering through the heavy hotel curtains. Maya, I meant what I said, Julian whispered as they lay in the tangled sheets. You're incredible. I want to spend more time with you. Can we see each other again? Apprehension finally gripped her. The sun was up, and the fantasy was starting to bleed into the reality of a Tuesday morning. Julian, it was amazing, she responded gently, and you're a wonderful man. I can't repeat this. It was a one-time thing, a beautiful memory I'll cherish, but I have to go back to my life. Julian wouldn't let it go. Please just consider it. Your husband. Chloe said he wouldn't mind once he understood. I can make you happy, Maya. Just think about it before you say no. I'll think about it, she lied just to end the conversation. They shared one last deep kiss, and for a moment she surrendered to his embrace, thinking that if she weren't married to me she'd stay in that room forever. But she was married to me, and as they left the hotel, a heavy knot of guilt began to tighten in her chest. She hoped I would forgive her, truly believing that her 2 weeks of affection had bought her enough credit to survive this indiscretion. Julian drove her home, and as they entered our neighborhood, Maya finally turned her phone back on. The device practically exploded in her hand. Dozens of missed calls, hundreds of texts. From me, from Chloe, from neighbors. She opened my last message first, and the words hit her like a physical blow. The raw pain and betrayal in my voice, even in text form, brought her to tears. Before she could process it, the phone rang. It was Chloe, sounding hysterical. "Mom, where have you been? I've been trying to reach you all night. There's a fire, Mom. The house, the studio." Maya's heart stopped. "What? Is your father okay? Where is Jason?" "Nobody knows. He's not answering his phone. He threw me out last night, Mom. He was so angry, he told me I wasn't his daughter anymore. Please just get here." As Julian turned the corner onto our street, the scene was something out of a nightmare. A fire truck and 2 police cruisers were parked in front of our house. Neighbors were standing on their lawns, whispering and pointing. Maya jumped out of the car before Julian had even fully stopped. She saw the smoke damage on the back of the house, but the front looked untouched. She ran toward the firefighters, her black dress wrinkled, her makeup smudged from the morning's tears. "Are you the owner?" a captain asked, eyeing her and the handsome younger man who had just stepped out of the luxury car behind her. "I'm Maya Vance. What happened? Where is my husband?" "We were able to save the main structure, Mrs. Vance. The back porch is scorched and there's heavy smoke damage inside, but the house is standing. However," he paused, pointing toward the backyard. "The small cottage in the back? It's a total loss. There was nothing we could do by the time we got here." Maya felt her legs give way. Julian caught her, helping her sit on the curb as the neighbors watched the spectacle with grim curiosity. "My studio? All my work, is it all gone?" "It's smoldering ashes, ma'am. The police detective is waiting to talk to you. He's in the back." Maya didn't wait. She scrambled up and ran to the back of the property. She stopped at the yellow caution tape, staring at the blackened skeleton of what had been her life's work. 20 years of paintings, sculptures, sketches, everything I had supported, everything she had cherished, was gone. And she knew, with a certainty that chilled her to the bone, that I was the one who had struck the match. Sergeant Miller approached her, his notebook out. "Mrs. Vance? Do you have any idea how this started? We found traces of an accelerant." "No," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I wasn't here last night." "And your husband?" "We've been trying to locate him since 2 a.m. I don't know where he is." Miller looked at Julian, then back at Maya's disheveled evening wear. A look of cold realization crossed his face. "And where were you last night, ma'am?" I was with him," she said, gesturing vaguely at Julian. "At the Grand Hotel. In the city center." The detective's assistant scribbled that down, and Maya felt the weight of the judgment in the air. She had just admitted, in front of the police and her neighbors, that she had spent the night with another man while her husband disappeared and her property burned. "Are you and your husband separated, Mrs. Vance?" "No. We are a happily married couple." The words sounded hollow even to her. "Well, your husband doesn't seem to think so. We found a pile of women's belongings in the center of the studio before it went up. It looks like he moved everything of yours out there before he set it on fire. Your clothes, your jewelry, even your wedding rings were found on the dresser inside. He wanted you to find them." Maya felt a wave of nausea. She hadn't even realized she'd left her rings behind in her rush to feel free with Julian. She called Chloe again, sobbing so hard she could barely speak. "Chloe, he burned it all. He burned everything. My life's work, my clothes. He left me with nothing. Mom, he's gone. He told me I'm not his daughter." He sounded dead inside. I've never heard him like that. Just as they were speaking, a call clicked through. It was my number. Maya's hands shook so violently she almost dropped the phone. "Jason? Jason, is that you? Please come home. We can talk about this." My voice was a cold, dead monotone on the other end. "Hi, Maya. How was your night?" "Jason, where are you?" "The studio. Did you do this?" "Why would you do this?" "You did it, Maya. Not me. You lit the fuse 30 years ago and you finally let it reach the powder last night. I saw the rings. I heard from our daughter, or should I say your daughter? Because as of last night, I don't have a child. And as of right now, I don't have a wife. Jason, please. It was just one night. I love you. I spent 2 weeks showing you how much I love you." "No," I cut her off. "You spent 2 weeks performing a play to ease your own conscience. You conned me. You made me feel like a king just so you could go and be a queen for someone else. There isn't a person on this earth who could forgive a treachery that calculated. You and Chloe, you're both dead to me. Don't look for me. My lawyer will be in touch on Monday. Enjoy your experience, Maya. I hope it was worth everything you just lost. I hung up before she could scream my name again. She stood there in the ruins of her backyard, clutching a phone that was no longer a lifeline but a tombstone. She had traded 30 years of security, a daughter's relationship with her father, and her entire artistic legacy for 12 hours in a hotel room. And as Julian stood awkwardly behind her, offering a hand she didn't want to take, she realized the experience had only just begun. The silence that followed the click of the phone was more deafening than the roar of the fire had been. Maya stood frozen, the charred scent of her life's work clinging to her hair and skin. Julian tried to step forward to offer some semblance of comfort, but she recoiled as if his touch were acidic. She realized then that he wasn't her solution or her new beginning. He was merely the instrument of her destruction. She stayed at the edge of the ashes for hours, watching the smoke curl into the sky, until the police finally told her she had to leave the property. Chloe arrived shortly after, and the two women, once so confident in their plan, retreated to Chloe's house like wounded animals. When they walked through the door, Chloe's husband, Mark, was waiting. He had already heard the broad strokes, but as the full story poured out, the fact that Chloe had actively set her own mother up with her friend's father, his face transformed from confusion to absolute disgust. "You did what, Chloe?" Mark asked, his voice dangerously low. "You knew Dad was home, thinking he was in a happy marriage, and you were busy coordinating Mom's hotel stay with Julian? Are you insane?" "Mark, it was about her happiness." She felt trapped. "She wasn't trapped, Chloe. She was married," Mark yelled, slamming his hand on the counter. "And you? You betrayed your own father. He worshipped the ground you walked on. He worked 60-hour weeks for 30 years so you could have the best of everything, and this is how you repay him? By pimping out your mother?" The word pimping made Chloe flinch, but Mark wasn't finished. "If this is your version of love and loyalty, then I don't know who I'm married to. You ruined a good man. You pushed him to a point where he felt he had to burn his own life down just to feel something other than your betrayal. And let me be clear, having children with you is officially off the table. I need to figure out if I can even look at you without seeing a snake. I'm calling Jason to apologize for your stupidity, though I doubt he'll ever want to hear your name again." 5 days later, I returned to the house. I didn't call and I didn't announce my arrival. I needed to see the damage with my own eyes. I had already spent the week in a haze of cold calculation, meeting with the best divorce attorney in the state. I walked through the rooms, the smell of smoke still lingering in the curtains. I looked at the spot on the dresser where I'd left Maya's rings. They were gone now, she must have taken them. It didn't matter. The weight of them was gone from my life. I was in the master bedroom, packing the last of my things into suitcases, when I heard the front door open. "Dad? Dad, are you here?" It was Chloe. She sounded small, broken. I didn't answer, but she found me anyway. She rushed over, trying to wrap her arms around me, but I stepped back, my body as rigid as a board. "Daddy, please talk to me. I'm so sorry. We both are. Mom is a mess, she's staying with us, she hasn't stopped crying." "I told you not to come here, Chloe," I said, my voice devoid of any warmth. "I told you that you were dead to me. Do you not understand the English language? Or are you just as entitled as your mother, thinking your sorry magically fixes a year of planned deceit? You can't just disown me. I'm your daughter. A daughter protects her father's heart. A daughter doesn't scout for his replacement. You showed me exactly where I stand in your hierarchy of importance. I am at the bottom, below your friend's father, and your mother's midlife crisis. You chose your side 2 weeks ago. Now go live with that choice. Dad, Mom needs you. She's lost everything. Her art, her clothes. She lost what I gave her. Everything in that studio, the studio itself, the clothes on her back. I provided it all. Since she decided she didn't want the man who provided it, she doesn't get the things he provided either. It's a clean break, Chloe. Now, get out of my house before I call the police to have you removed for trespassing." Chloe ran out for the second time, her world permanently fractured. The following day, the legal machinery began to grind. Maya received the divorce papers at Chloe's house. I was ruthless. I made it clear that the house was mine, inherited property from my grandfather, never commingled in a way that gave her a claim. She got half of our liquid savings, which was a substantial sum, but I refused a dime of alimony. If she fought me, I told my lawyer to prepare the adultery suit, naming Julian and Chloe as co-conspirators in the destruction of the marriage. I was ready to drag their names through every tabloid in the city. She didn't fight. She couldn't. The guilt and the public shame of the neighborhood gossip had drained her of any fight. She moved into a cramped, one-bedroom apartment near the city center and took a job at a small art gallery, not as an artist but as an assistant. Her days of sitting by the lake, painting for hours while I handled the bills, were over. She spent her nights in a quiet, lonely room, realizing that the thrill of Julian had lasted 12 hours, but the consequences would last for the rest of her life. Meanwhile, I had one last bit of business to attend to. I knew Julian was planning to move to Ecuador to escape the fallout. I found his address. I didn't want to talk. I didn't want an apology. Late one night, as he was loading a final box into his car, I stepped out of the shadows. He saw me and his face went pale. "Jason, look, I didn't know." I didn't let him finish. The fury of 30 years of loyalty betrayed by his companionship came out in a single violent burst. I used a tire iron I'd kept in my truck. It was over in seconds. I didn't kill him, I wanted him to live and remember. I left him on the pavement with shattered knees and a face that would never look the same again. "Stay away from married women, Julian," I whispered. "It's bad for your health." I was at the airport 2 hours later. I had already sold the house to a young couple who knew nothing of the tragedy that had occurred there. I took my $950,000 from the sale and my savings and caught a flight to Belize. By the time Julian was being wheeled into surgery, I was watching the sunrise over the Caribbean Sea from my new beachfront balcony in San Pedro. 6 months later, Maya took a bus to our old neighborhood. She wanted to see the house one last time, perhaps hoping to find me there, ready to forgive. She knocked on the door, only to be met by a young woman she didn't recognize. "Is Jason Vance here?" Maya asked, her voice cracking. "No, he sold us this place months ago. He said he was starting a new life." "Are you Maya?" The woman reached into a drawer. "He left an envelope for you. He said you might show up eventually." Maya opened the letter on the sidewalk, her hands trembling. "Maya, 3 decades. And it turns out I was living with a stranger. You didn't just break our marriage, you nuked it. I've moved on to a drama-free zone where loyalty isn't a performance. Don't look for me. I'm buried under new faces and a new sun. Consider this letter your closure. You wanted more? I hope the silence of that apartment is exactly what you were looking for. Farewell from the man who once loved you. JV." She sat on the curb and cried until her lungs burned. She was 52, alone and working for minimum wage. Julian never contacted her again. His own life was a series of surgeries and a permanent limp. Chloe and Mark remained in counseling, but the shadow of her betrayal hung over them like a shroud. Mark never fully trusted her again, and every time he looked at her, he saw the daughter who had destroyed her father. I, on the other hand, found my peace. I spend my days on the beach in Porto Lopez with a cold beer and the company of women who respect the life I've built. I realize that while divorce is a part of life, staying where you aren't valued is a choice. I chose to leave the ashes behind. I'm 60 years old, I have a comfortable fortune, and for the next 30 years, I intend to live for myself. The fire I started that night didn't just burn a studio, it cleared the land for a life I never knew I could have. And as I watch the waves hit the shore, I don't feel a single ounce of regret.